So before we get into the hockey thing, I had a few minutes last night just to crash and chill. Last night,
Nice.
I was looking for a documentary, so I saw the one that you were talking about, the octopus teacher.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So, not that we're going to talk about this or anything, but I was
You can go down a rabbit hole with that.
No, it is. What did you get out of it? Because what I was watching it, I watched for about 10, 15 minutes. And first of all, this guy went in the ocean and found a friend that's an octopus. But I was sitting there and go, wow, is there some stuff down there I've never seen before?
I think it's just the simple thing of how relatable every journey is. It could be a journey of a kid to an adult, and a kid into an athlete, a better athlete. Peeling the shell of yourself, like that process of that, what he divulged to us, observing that you didn't have to be a marine biologist to pick up on what he was laying down. He watched the mannerisms of that octopus. He watched how it navigated its world to hide, to camouflage, to eat, to stay safe. What was its territory? How not a lot of other octopuses were around. Just everything that he kind of peeled back the layers on that. I mean, you can, make a lot of bridges to.
It was cool.
Humans. It was so cool.
It was cool. I only watched, I think maybe 15 minutes of it, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go to bed. But I was like, but just seeing in the ocean. So like everyone goes like Mars is the thing, and people have a clue what's up in space, kinda.
Yeah.
But you go like a little bit down the ocean, it's like there's things that what is that? It's freaking amazing.
There's octopus the same size as you. They get their arm ripped off and grow a new one.
See, there you go.
Like, what?
It's the same with a cockroach. You can cut their head off and they grow another one. So George St. Pierre says in his book, seriously, as an athlete or as a human, he goes, because you read that book, right?
Yeah.
We just talked about it the other day, but what he said in the book is that you want to be like a cockroach. Not like a cockroach, but like you want to be adaptable like a cockroach. He goes, the dinosaurs have been killed off and stuff, but he goes, a cockroach keeps reinventing itself, and it's just because they can adapt, not because they're stronger.
Never go away.
Sounds like there's a train. So anyways, that was pretty cool. It's someone you might be interested in that kind of stuff. But we're gonna get into hockey, Dalton. I'm nervous to say this. We call it retirement now, eh?
Yeah, it's crazy because I've had a few conversations with people and, hey, you still playing? Where you looking for a job maybe next year? You healthy? You're not? I came to the decision between my years in recent time, but it's kind of crazy. You got to file the paperwork maybe today.
Seriously, well, we've never actually. You and I see each other every day, and I never actually because I know it's almost touchy to say you're retired, 30 years old, retiring from hockey, because I know that was your passion in life. But last year, actually, when you came home in November, you have concussion issues, and we were just talking about this the other day, how you came into the office and you sat there and you talked, and I've never seen anyone like that. And your eyes were glassed over, and you were telling me about, just stopping at a stop sign and almost forgetting where you were.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, you were scrambled eggs. But the good thing was you were able to put sentences together and have a good conversation, and you tried moving a little bit. Well, you kept working out and stuff, and we got to that. But that was, I felt bad for you, because just the look in your eyes, it was like, this guy's a mess right now.
And what's funny about that is that you really in hockey you don't really have time to, once you realize it's your career you're living and you're kind of in it. You don't really have time to go on how you feel. If you go on how you feel, you're gonna create a heck of a roller coaster for yourself. You kind of have the task at hand and do it, and your day in day out, your routines, what you do, it's your sanity. So all of that was still in place. Like I still had a hockey team, still had a contract, still had. The framework was there to do what I've done my whole life. But the mind that was driving that vessel in that moment, in that time, I had no idea how I wasn't myself. I didn't really understand how much of a toll it had taken on me until I got healthy. There's those incremental things that change in your personality over your time, or just how you handle yourself, your mannerisms. Looking back on it, you thought you were okay, but looking back on it now, I was not myself. I was not not a right or wrong frame of mind. I wasn't in Dalton's frame of mind.
So, but are you talking that was like as you were playing or from that injury?
From a little bit, because there's documented concussions. There's stuff where you think you get your bell rung, and I can go back to when, the numerous times, and I understood now that I wasn't acting out, but I was kind of at the mercy of the psychological effects of the concussions, and that you kind of negate them because why address that? I have bigger, better things to deal with. I have a contractor and I have a game to win. I want to enjoy my life. Like and once you have time, when it becomes too much, and the league's done a good job. It's not perfect out there. I mean, there's a lot of noise about concussions and things, but until you go through it, or until you speak to somebody that has gone through it and understands you, the different parts of it, like understand you, and they understand your hockey life and your parents, it's a full net of people, because there's a lot that goes into just you as a person, and understanding like all of those were just a little off, and but you need all of them to give you a right picture on understand. Like you need that network of people of that support, or else the information's at your fingertips with it. It's a lot more comforting for players going into the game. Not just hockey, any soccer, football, anywhere. There's a lot of support for that now. It's good because going down the road that I went down, it's unfortunate. Injuries happen. It's part of the game, and it's what you sign up for when you choose hockey. But there's definitely, I can see now that fork in the road. If I stayed on that and keep fighting it, and I know where that leads. And unfortunately, people that are left the game maybe 5 years after I did, I'm talking age, not the time right now, some of them aren't with us anymore. And I can understand and I can relate to that on a level I wish I didn't understand. And I'm very thankful for where I am today, and I'm proud of myself for digging myself out of that. Yeah. But I needed a lot of resources, and I knew enough to use them.
Yeah, you did.
And it's it's definitely something that it made me stronger. But wow, that burned almost too much.
Yeah. So when you got I'm going to stay on this for a little bit because a couple things. So obviously retired more or less due to concussions, more or less.
Yeah, more or less.
That injury
it's
what led. That's one of the things, and then the role that you played was like a depth defenseman, hard-nosed defenseman, and that who dropped the mitts a few times. Mm-hmm. So do you think you got any of the concussions through fighting, or was it a combination of that hits? And then talk about some of the guys like. I know we've talked in our office about some of the guys that are actually scrambled eggs, and it's a good thing the game has changed because it's a mess.
Yeah,
that part.
To the first part, there was. Sorry, what was the first part again?
Just you kind of retired most. The concussions forced you almost into retirement.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Because you didn't want to feel sick.
It's a smaller hit. It's what you don't understand about brain damage. So when you don't feel the symptoms, it doesn't mean damage isn't being done. So I think back to the times in the American League, or you get hit into the boards and you get a blink, or you get to see a couple black dots, or you see a little bit of bright light. There's so many small things that you take a deep breath, you don't feel it next shift.
No.
Well, for someone like in the minors, like I had to be physical. I had to be a physical presence. I had to have as goals. Like I would write down, I got to have a certain amount of hits. Some nights you might get it, some days you do, but you gotta, and you miss guys. Your head hits a stanchion, you fall, you get a puck, you miss a guy, you catch an elbow, or there's a lot of smaller those that I never noticed before, and I know, oh wow, that was hard, but I'm fine. Oh, that was hard, I'm fine. And then you get in fights. Like you said, it's part of the game. It was part of my game, and then, you become a man, and you're not fighting a junior anymore. So if you make a mistake and you wear one on the side of the head, or you get punched in the face, or you take it on the chin, then maybe that increased to maybe I feel the symptoms for a day. I wake up the next day, oh, wow, I feel a little nauseous. I feel a little dizzy. I'll go through practice and feel fine after practice.
And then because you don't actually want to reveal every time you're hurt.
No, you can't.
Especially if you're not the top D.
No, you don't. I don't have. It comes with a quick understanding that it's next man up. I didn't have the leverage of taking a year off. So that amount of time that I took, and I can sit here saying probably for a few months, I've probably 3-4 months, I am 110% in a good frame of mind. And if I had to, not if I had to, but I'm healthy enough to take a stab at being the best version of myself on the ice. And then I could, but that was a calendar year almost.
Yeah.
And that's what Sidney Crosby took, and that's what you need. But in my world, I don't have that leverage. I don't have that.
You're not Sidney.
I don't have that. That's just realistic.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I put on my plate, the stuff that I played through, I can kind of, that's what I mean. You know what you sign up for. So you can go down a different rabbit hole with guys like filing claims, for and getting compensated for their injuries. But it worked out for me that I was able to continue and earn a contract. But there's some things that I was thankful enough that I had enough wherewithal to know when enough was enough.
Yeah, the rest of your life.
Yeah, when enough is enough. Because, like I said, those small hits when I go to practice and I feel good after practice. Well, and I wouldn't tell anyone. And then I remember taking a good hit, and after a fight, I fell and hit my head on the ice, and that was that was a month or so, and then a couple more fights, and in a less amount of time. Then it lasted longer, to the point where second half of a season, and by the time I went to the next training camp after full summer of training, I said, you know what? So I'm still a little bit off. I don't know what it is. I can't pinpoint it. I'm trying to do things to get out of my head about it. And then that angst that you don't even know you're holding on to and being inside your own head, it creeps into your daily routine, your life, your who you are. And then it pushes the needle every day a little bit to the point where you don't understand, but you're doing it at the cost of your dream. And what people don't understand is, yes, you have your teammates, but professional hockey is a very lonely sport. And it's kind of contradictory to people that don't understand.
Yeah.
So you wake up, like a lot of the guys, you're on your own. You have your own apartment when you start out, and unless you have a family, but you have the guys. But the guys are only there at the rink. You hang out outside. Well, right now it's even tougher. I feel for the guys. But you're in your hotel room. You're sleeping alone. There's a lot of time that's on your own. So I kept it to myself, and it's a big burden to bear. And you have to understand and be in the right frame of mind. And unless you have someone that's really close to you and you can always have that communication, and you kind of squander down a road that without even knowing it. Yeah. That's what I mean by pushing the needle. And then, to say when I was a kid that I'd be playing or not feel right for about 8 months and not tell anybody, be like, oh, that's stupid. And I bet you my 50-year-old self will look back and, well, that was stupid. But me in that same situation tomorrow, I'll tell you right now, I'd probably handle it the same way.
Yeah. Because
when adversity hits you, everyone deals with it a different way. Yeah. And some tactics are to your benefit, some to your demise. But I wouldn't change a thing, but I learned a lot, and I knew when enough was enough. Did I handle it perfectly? No. But at the end of the day, I respected myself enough that enough was enough. And because once I got through that, and I had like I said, the second half of the year, then I showed up the next training camp, and your job doesn't allow you to be gun shy. Like you can't dip your toes, and you have to dive in head first and deal with the problems later.
Yeah.
No, I mean physically, kind of, and mentally. So, that's how I dealt with it. That's kind of how it panned out for me. And then last season, once I took a smaller hits in a smaller frame of time, and it messed me up way worse than hits that I took that were a lot harder. That's when I knew whoa, that's when it hit serious. That's when it hit home for me. That's when it was, I was like, something's really wrong. And into the, in a situation where I had a very good opportunity. I'm coming off a year in that time where I've played 20 games. I spent 60 games as a healthy scratch, 60 to 82 game schedule.
That's in Calgary.
In Calgary. So I was a depth D man a full season. And that's not, that it's a beautiful job, but it comes with the challenges.
Yeah.
And coming and then having those hits all within a week.
Yeah.
And then having a great opportunity in San Jose.
Yeah. It
was very hard to see the opportunity I have with my dream, my love, my passion, and I have my health. How much do I want to sacrifice?
Yeah.
I needed to take a step back, cool the jets, and go at this with, a logical
thought.
mind.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you're naive, I would put anything on the line to play there. And that's what helped me. But once it's at the cost of my own health and the longevity of my own life, to the best of my knowledge, I had to address it. And it was, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that was like, so just before you were pro, maybe how much older are you or younger than you is Donnelly? That's not a question.
Ryan Donnelly,
I want to say, how much
is 85 or 86.
Okay,
I think.
So he's like 5 years older than you.
6 years older.
Never played junior against him?
No.
Okay.
No.
So Don's, just missed each other.
Yeah, just missed.
So Don's, so if anyone doesn't know Ryan, well, a lot of people wouldn't know Ryan, but he was, he's always skated with us. He was a great hockey player. Was third round pick to Calgary, and he's a 6'5", like a big human.
Oh, he's a big man.
Man, he's a big man.
He's huge.
Oh yeah,
he's a big man.
Yeah, like you're a big guy, man. And he towers over you.
Yeah, he's a big man.
And like a powerful guy. So he went into Calgary and he set records. So that was a time when he was training at my old gym, and Dave Steen, who was the Olympic, a good friend of mine who was an Olympic.
He stopped in here one day.
Yeah, he stopped in here. So he was an Olympic bronze medalist in the decathlon, and his programs were, he designed them for Ryan. So anyways, Ryan's an intelligent guy, like a very intelligent guy, professional all the time, and with like a grinding type of player. So he was drafted for size, and I'm going to talk about this too, how the game's changed a lot too.
Oh, much.
But when Ryan went up there, he was trying to make his way into the NHL, and he started fighting. And if you know Ryan, he's a tough kid, but he's not what I call a scrapper. Like, it's just not his nature to be, but he made it his nature. And he was fighting all the heavyweights in the American League. Mm-hmm. And then he started getting a concussion, just like as you were saying. So he called me the one day. He goes, just check out my last fight. He goes, I'm thinking I might have to retire. So I checked out his last fight, and he got it was like the guy just nudged his head with a punch, and he buckled, he flinched like that, and it was the fight was over. And then that was my conversation with him. He said, I'm calling you and I'm calling my dad. He goes, I just want your honest opinion. I said, well, it's hard to say this to you, but if you're a smart guy and it's your health. Now it's your health. You got to take care of your health.
Yeah.
And that was a hard decision for him, but it was good. He moved on and all that stuff, but it's amazing. So I want to talk about that, how the game's changed. So I'm going to give my perspective on it because we talk about this all the time. So Dalton and I always talk about when we start talking about hockey, because I grew up where I played in the 80s, mid 80s to early 90s, and you came in, however many years after that is.
Mid 2000s.
Yeah, we're a couple generations away. So when I looked at hockey, it's so funny because Charlie looks at the hockey that I used to watch. So Grant Fears and that they just did a documentary. You mentioned it, and I tried checking it out, but I don't have access to it yet. And he goes, Dad, the goalies were shit back then. And I go, no, they weren't. He goes, Dad, look at they suck. They're all over the place. I said, well, that's the way the game was. Yeah. They're no butterfly. They're out. Gretzky would come in and hold on to the puck, and he goes, "Well, of course he scored all those goals." And I'm like, "Well, yes and no." And then you see guys without helmets, and then you'd see So when I got to junior, it was I look back at it and it's hilarious. Like
a goalie
it wasn't about
sit down. Remember?
Yeah, it wasn't about how. You had to be a good hockey player and stuff, but it was a different type of good hockey player. So a guy like me, I would fit a lot better in. I'm not saying that I'm playing in the NHL. and going to be good at it. But my chances of playing, in a sense, the game would suit my style more now than it did in the 80s. So when I went in there as a 5'9.5", 5'10", 165-pound guy, so Jimmy Sandlak, the house.
He coached me.
So those are
nickname was House.
Those are the guys that I would play against shift after shift after shift after shift, and it's a game of attrition. So looking at that game, it's funny that we had one coach on the bench. We didn't even get tracksuits or anything like that. It was fend for yourself. Yeah. It was the training camps were legit bloodbaths. I remember my second day at camp, and this Mike Swanson, he was way bigger than you. He was like 6'5", 6'6". He was a second year guy up and down with the team. And he goes, Packer, you haven't fought yet. You want to go? And I go, I'll go, but not with it. Come on, man. You're 19, I'm 16. So anyways, I got my fight after, not with him. But it was that was part of it. There was no red line. So there was no red line. There was no systems. Really, there was no systems. When I played junior hockey, we had a form of a breakout. We had every now and then, depending on the coach, we had a breakout for a power play breakout. We had some sort of penalty kill. Yeah. Coaches just barked at you. The players, they weren't in shape like they were now. The game was like it was, back checking with your stick. You go jet skiing instead of skating hard. And it was just hard ass. It would take 3-4 hours to play a game. Every game would have 6-7 fights. Every game. Mm-hmm. And so my first year there was 3 full out brawls. Not I was mentioning the other day, they were talking about a brawl on TV, and it was 2 guys and a couple guys paired up. We had legit brawls, year after year. The game has changed, and I think sometimes for the better. And speaking of all that, we talked about just in the generation between, maybe even in yours and junior, where fighting became the rules changed a little bit, became a little bit faster, and then fighting was reduced. Some guys are shooting.
Yeah, what year was it reduced to a number in the OHL?
It's only been maybe 3 years.
Yeah,
that you're allowed 3 fights.
Yeah.
So we know guys that have literally, like you said earlier, they fought so much that they literally at 25 years old don't have a clue where they are.
Yeah,
so the game has changed.
That's the part of the ignorant part of the fan that I see. When you go to the little bit of remote cities in the United States, and you have the loyal fans that pay their money, and they want to be entertained, and they say, yell, fight. Yeah, it's a part of the game, but it's a part of the game to be respected, and more so the people that are stepping up to do it, not a circus act. And it got carried away. But there was a place for it. It did get carried away, and the game is changing. Not better, not worse. It's just different. It's just
what I was going to say is and the reason I'm saying this is because, and this is where I want you to expand. So the reason I'm saying this is because a dad today, or a hockey player my age, because I'm involved in hockey, so I understand the ins and outs of how things are working on a daily basis. But if you're a dad my age, 52 years old, and you got a son, or you're 40 years old and you have a son playing hockey, it's literally not the same game. It's not the same game.
No.
And so when your training methods are going to change, and the part that I wanted to get into is that's why we're so adamant on all the information that we provide the kids about how hard you have to train, how to get your mental space. Careers typically don't last 15 years now. They're going to come a lot quicker. So I want you to actually talk about how the game has changed, because you came in at a certain level and the game has changed in your 9 years to a whole different game itself.
Oh, I think it goes relative to how quickly things are changing in the real world. I think that's trickled into hockey with awareness and training avenues, training knowledge, and obviously these kids that are coming in. A quick story: I remember being hurt my first year. It was either my last year, my entry level, or my first year on a one-way, and I'm sitting there and watching clips of Shea Weber, because he's the best defenseman in the league at that time, and arguably still is, in my opinion. And I was sitting there watching clips, and my general manager, Jarmo Kekalainen, he said, I'm just a kid. I'm 22, still trying to solidify myself as an NHL player. And you basically you're trying to do your whole career. And he said, "You're doing well." I remember said, you have a good summer, injuries happen, get to that 6'3", 6'3", about 230 pounds, you get your 8-9% body fat. And that lasted about less than a calendar year. And I was trying to get down to 215 to get faster.
Yeah.
Because it changed that much. And like
changed
you
that
said,
quickly for you. So you did all the right things.
Yeah.
And then, that changed now.
Yeah, I was about, I was not, just under 9%, 230 pounds. And, but putting that quality mass on my body took a while to condition and be a hockey player. But for my role, I needed that, but I could take away from, some of this, the skill work, because I'm not going to beat a defenseman wide, and try and put the goalie's jock in or be on the power play and need to make a dynamic, deceptive move. Like that's not what I needed to do. Yeah. But now, to do that same job, you need to dial it way and just be an athlete and be able to move. It's amazing what hockey players can blend into a crowd, because there's you can't see it. It's
as opposed to a
conditioning.
Football player.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
or
the
a basketball player who's 7'9".
Yeah, there's the odd genetic freaks that are, that guy's but it's all conditioning, all speed, all skill. But that's what the game calls for now. It's just like the Scott Stevens hit wouldn't be acceptable today.
We talk about that all the time.
And the frame and work that you put in to be successful, where you would have seen there's a different player from 75 to 85 to 95, and those 10 or 20 years, that amount of change has condensed into 2-3 year increments. It's still a copycat league. You still see what the best is doing, what's winning. That works. Let's do that. Let's model after that. But wow, what being ahead of the curve as far as training and the amount of training I was doing to keep up and try and make a living at hockey, that has changed dramatically. It's not even in the same realm of work. There's certain things that are still a little bit similar, but wow, it's different. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The game is so funny. Like it's actually, like, if you're old school and you haven't kept up with the game, that's a whole different game.
And it's demographic though, of the same people. Like there's more jobs available on those rosters for grit.
Yeah.
Now there's not as much. Yeah. And then you're drawing. So if you're a kid, if you're 10 to 12, 15 years old and you're kind of connecting the dots and learning life, and you look at something and you don't even know it, but you're trending towards things that you're good at, your strengths. And if someone is bigger, aggressive, gritty, doesn't come from much, I can do that. Well, that kid can't go up and down the ice like you need to now. So you're getting different personalities in the game. And with how expensive it is, like we talk all the time, it's becoming an elitist sport.
Yep.
A hockey stick is $300.
Dude, I'm a dad.
It's crazy.
I'm lucky I have some connections.
Yeah, so you're getting those
Zach
different.
gave Charlie his pattern. That he used the same pattern. He gave him like 8 sticks to start the season.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And they were his flex and everything. So it's like, thank you, Zach. You just saved me a few grand.
Yeah.
That's in hockey. Yeah.
And what is it? That's insane. So you're getting different social demographic of who can even afford to keep up.
Yep.
Yeah. So that feeds in down the funnel to why the game's changing too.
Oh my God, it's so different. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about one more thing before we go back into hockey. This is apply to hockey. So.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. Life is hockey. Hockey's life. It's the same thing. But so I sent you the podcast for Teddy Atlas the other day.
Yes.
And did you like it?
Didn't watch it.
Oh, okay. All right. So anyways, so I'll give you
I haven't watched it yet. I'll get to it.
Yeah, you'll like it. So thanks for that. So I'll give you the Cole's notes. So Teddy Atlas was Mike Tyson's trainer early, because Customato, who was his actual trainer, was getting old and he needed like soldiers to work the gym for him. So he had Tyson. So his comment with Tyson was that he's actually 0-5 as a fighter. So, obviously he's like, what do you mean 0-5? He's had 60 fights or something. He lost 5, so he's really 55-5, right? And he goes, no, he's 0-5. And the reason he's 0-5 is because those other 50 fights or 45, whatever the number is, 45, whatever fights, was just a show of athleticism. He was just superior to his opponents.
So superior, he executed on his, and if he executed on his game plan, there's nothing anyone who steps in the ring can do. You are getting turned into minced meat. Right,
because he's just better.
Yeah, just better.
Right, so his point, and this is what I've always tried to say, so the kids or the parents that are listening when you're talking, maybe it's another version of what I've said before. I always called it like maybe early bloomers or just talent. Like, for example, the best example that we can use together would be Aaron Ekblad.
Yeah.
Is that he's a local guy that we've all skated with. He trains with me. He was first overall in the NHL and first overall in the OHL. And it was like, okay, and that you called them silver spooners or Porsches as opposed to a dump truck, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And, so going through junior, he never really was tested. And I'm not cutting Aaron up. I'm just saying his talent was so good. Yeah, his talent was so good. The game was
mature. He was that good.
Yeah, he was like physically older than the kids he was playing against.
And,
and he had, the brain, his brain seemed like when the game was coming, he had the ability to just have poise and slow things down like where other guys would rush plays. He had that ability. So superior genetics for hockey in that way. So go back to fighting. What Teddy Atlas says is that is that Mike Tyson actually isn't a fighter. He said he was a boxer of superior skills until he got into a guy that knew how to fight, Evander Holyfield. And he said when he got to Evander Holyfield, he didn't know. He goes, oh, this is supposed to be easy. And at some point, this guy keeps coming back at him, and to the point where I don't like this. So what does he do? He goes like, this is. Do you think he bit his ear because that's his only option? He just wanted to rip his ear off? Or in his head he's saying, if I bite his ear, the fight's over. I don't have to fight anymore, because he was at that challenge. It was an interesting way of saying it, rather than, how I've always said skill or early bloomers and you get the advantage, because at some point you're going to get that adversity or you're going to get in a fight. You're going to get in that fight. I'm not talking this fight, like at the hockey. You're going to get in that fight. And I think the reason I'm saying this is because as a player, as we talk about with our young guys, is that we're always trying to teach them to be fighters. Like we're trying to teach them to understand that. Like you've been so good to my son, you're calling him to get him up out of bed and motivating him and just being a mentor. And it was, excuse me, it was I don't know how that really came, but you just chose to give a shit about my son, and it's been so good for him because you're teaching him things that people will never learn. And it's teaching them how to fight, like getting up in the morning and working out and being accountable. And hopefully that'll stick. But because my point is that at some point when you play this game, you're going to have to fight.
Yeah, you're
not physically fight, but you're going to have to fight. And have you seen that with players? And at the end of the day, you want those guys on your team. Yeah, talent will get you so far, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. That's the most important. If you understand your. You don't even understand the stress you're enduring as a hockey player and what you're learning. So you're coming up, you're like your teammates. But how hard things are on the ice. Say use Chooch and his buddies. Oh, we had a really hard conditioning skate, a bag skate. That's the biggest stressor, and how they handle that. Yeah. And it's funny because when you close your eyes and you're doing the skate and saying, this coach is stupid, it's pointless, we have a game tomorrow, what are we doing? And you want out of it. You're finding a way out of it. That's a tidbit of, the fight that is between your ears, not all the time, but you need to learn to navigate that. Because like if you're in the 10th round of a 12-round fight in a heavyweight boxing match, you're still going to have that. There's your body, your mind, you're wired to protect yourself. So that psychological warfare, you have to get comfortable there. You have to have a good relationship with it. You have to to understand when to push, how to then, at the NHL level, or how to, pull your scalpel out and be precision. And then with your, and always looking forward, how to better yourself, how to be more efficient, be more precise, and you're on your own battle with that. Right, you're on your own road. Obviously, your teammates are there. You lean on each other. A guy's down, he's up. But navigating that stress is the most important, because your body doesn't know the difference between physical harm and mental harm. It handles the same way between your ears.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all in one. And, even if when you're feeling good, you scored a couple of goals, your goalie stopping everything. Like, it's easy for it to feel easy, but know the storm is coming at all times, because it is.
Yeah.
And when it gets really good to you, whether it's at whatever level of whatever you're doing, you're definitely going to get complacent and know that you are. So you have to willfully every day do something you don't want to do that's hard, because if you do the right things all the time, things are going to start to happen in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And once they do, that's when you see a sophomore slump, when you see guys get in their own head, when you see guys, and I speak to this through, I felt it. I've done the right things for a certain amount of time, and then think that you can not slack off, but not even recognize that you're not doing the things that got you there.
Yeah.
They slip your mind. It's very easy because things are so well. You always have to have that same measuring point and be honest with yourself. And no, and remember the times that you dug yourself out of holes. But that right there it's momentum, right? It's always looking forward. So even if your car's on the highway and you're going 5 mile an hour, you find out how to go 6. If you're going 100 mile an hour, find out how to stay going 100 mile an hour. And if you're slowing down, you still got to look at one step ahead, knowing how to get momentum out of that. I think that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
I was one clip I was watching yesterday was from David Goggins, the Navy SEAL guy, and this was I hadn't seen this one before. Guy was interviewing him about whatever, and he said he was talking to a kid that was going to university for the first year. I don't know if you guys seen this, and he goes like, it's really hard. So Goggins like, what's hard about it? Well, it's hard. Like when in high school, I used to just I used just to go and come home and didn't really have homework, and I'd get 90s. He goes, no, now I got to do all this homework. He goes, how long are you doing homework for? He goes, like an hour, 2 every night. Like, and I'm like really giving it. He goes, it's because you don't know what hard is. You're measuring hard against nothing.
Yeah.
He goes, you had it easy. Now you find, you say this is hard, but you don't even know it's hard. You haven't pushed yourself ever. Because now you're looking at something that's not even hard. 2 hours of homework to get your degree, to achieve something in life. Is that hard? And he put it really in perspective. He goes, how about it was like when he tried to get into the SEALs and stuff. He says hard was like trying to lose 100 pounds or more than that, I think, in a month or 60 days.
Yeah, it was like, what was it? It was something crazy.
168, 190, whatever.
It was over 100 pounds in a very short, less than a year.
Yeah. Plus he.
Yeah, what's up, Eric? If whoever can't see Eric's sitting. He's the brains behind the operation, behind the computer. So we're talking to him like the mythical creature.
Yeah, you're here. But and then he had to do the ASVAB, I think it's called, test, and it was a really tough test to get into the military, and he had to go do all that physical training, then study all night, every night, because he had to relearn how to read. He had no education. So this guy, he goes, don't tell me about hard work. Like, it's everyone's perception. And we used this in the last episode that we did about, what does it take to make the NHL? Like, no one knows. But let's just say it's a 600-pound boulder, and you have to pick the boulder up and grab it and hold it over your head for X amount of time and then put it down. Yeah. That's what it takes to make the NHL. So what people first say is, okay, I can do that. And then they go, well, why can it just be 400? It's too heavy. Well, there's an excuse. And there's a reason. And then it's too awkward. Well, I almost did. Does that count? No, that doesn't count. It's 600 pounds. You have to do 600 pounds worth of work to make the NHL. And if you can't do it, you fall short. It's supposed to be hard. It's the hardest thing that most people are ever going to do.
Oh my god.
It's going to be hard.
Oh yeah, I feel like you have to be the first one to give yourself the dose of humility. But you can't be responsible for everything. Understand how hard it's going to be. You're going to need help. And you're going to have to learn how to ask for help. But in order to do that, you better be doing everything within your control to be able to have something to stand on, to ask for help. Because no coach, no trainer, no one is going to want to help someone who isn't helping themselves to the best of their ability. And to the best of honestly, to the best of their ability. And that's why, you hear coaches say, it's a point of frustration. A lot of coaches say it. I heard it all the time. You guys want it to be easy because by default you do.
Of course you do.
Of course you do. You want, but go all in on knowing that it's going to be hard, and then rely on the older guys in the room, and that's why that dynamic is important. That these guys know how hard it is, how hard it's going to be, because they've done it before, and then they can help me. Like they know. You think when you're young, you think everyone's out to get you. Like it's everyone's, because you're in competition. And and the best thing you can do is not. You really, really need to. Objectively compare yourself to realistically say if this is a good job, and an attainable goal to play in the NHL, but you can't compare yourself on a day-to-day basis to anyone else. My bad. You know what I mean? You can't do that. Yeah. It'll work to your demise. Like you cannot. That you will fall backwards. Like compare. Know where you want to go. Know it's going to take every ounce of you and support, and do it day by day. Be a better version of a hockey player tomorrow, and know it's coming. That you might have 2 weeks, month that it's not going good for you, and you're gonna have to. But what do people do? Have the end goal in sight, and know that it's gonna suck for a couple weeks. It might suck for a month. Guys go into funks. Guys don't score goals. Guys get out of the lineup like that. That happens. But then it's, do you play the blame game? Do you ask for a trade? Do you question your coach? Do you what do you do? Because it is so easy to do that. And especially when I've been on teams where guys that I'm fighting for positions on, like you see them do it, but you lose sight of the goal. You're here to provide your service to win the game. It's not about you. And that's where, and if you go in the dressing room with the right mentality of you are all in giving yourself to the team, that the negativity doesn't even seep in if you're in a good mindset. You're here. It's not about you. It's about the team. Your job is to get better as a hockey player and be the best version of yourself to help this team win. Everything else is BS. And get that out of your head. The negativity, and then you see it with kids, especially right away. If where they come from, if smoke's blowing up their butt, and the parents, and it's all about them. It's all about them. It's what you and to that side, you have to take care of yourself. You do have to, package your shadow with you, like everything bad, that the deep, dark parts of you that you can pull in to use the aggression or get nasty and pull as motivation. Like it's an 82-game schedule. You're going to have to pull that out pull your claws out at some point. But the negativity seeping in, and you can see it, and you see guys that let them wander down that path. See how that turns out for you. And I've seen guys lose a career over it. I remember after I played 20 games, and the next year I got a one-way contract. I had no idea it was coming, but I understood later that there's intangible things about the game that give a dressing room certain things, and yourself, that if you don't have that mindset, your talent is useless, like less than useless. I'm talking $6 to $8 million players in the NHL. That talent's useless if you don't have the majority mindset like that in a dressing room. And it's and those are the small things that, like I said, when I hit rough patches, the small things of routines, eating right, sleeping right, positive mindset, it gives you momentum out of that snag.
So as you say that, this is something that, so my wife, I've thrown my wife under the bus here in other podcasts. Don't watch them, hun, please. No, I'm not. It's just a different mindset. So we talked about it in the room there the one day, how, because we've all been driven through sports and through business and stuff, that like this COVID thing and not being motivated. Some people it's not affecting them. It's like, oh, whatever. But for us, it's like, I'm going nuts. I need to work. I need to keep building my goals. And it's like, oh, I want to stay fit. Even though I'm 52, I want to keep up with Dalton Prout and Eric. I want to be just as fit as you. It's like there's something inside that makes me want that. So my wife, a lot of the time, she goes, because I talk about, for dinner, can we just dial this down. It's just like, well, you want to be like, everything's got to be perfect all the time. It's like sometimes you think you work out too much, and it's like that old school. No, this is what I want, and this is what it takes. It's like you, Eric, used the word uncompromising. When I watched you going through your career, because I've known Dalton since he's about 10 years old, training and going through it, and I've watched you, and it was a really good example of a guy that I don't think you always wanted to play in the NHL, but I don't think that you knew that was a reality till much later.
Oh gosh, I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did the things like you did as a young kid. You shot your pucks. You did, you found, I love the stories when you talk about, I didn't know what to do. So I went to a gym and I saw the boxing and I saw this and that. So I tried that. Oh, that'll help. And you invented your own stuff, which is a intrinsic value that you have. That's great. But it's like, it became uncompromising, and it has to be. Like, people don't understand, to get that goal. And kids have to be kids. You still have to go see grandma and grandpa, and you still have to go to, if you go to church, that's a thing, or if you have to do your vacations and stuff. But in your head, you have to be totally you have to be focused on this thing, because it's not easy to get. To become a professional hockey player, to get your school paid for, to go to junior hockey, you have to be, if you're not the best of the best, you better be working hard and doing things right. And if you can talk about that, because that's actually what it takes. You have to, like in your NHL career, what changed really, right? You took that little boy and you took it till 30 years old, and it was run, eat, sleep, and it's like, it's not. People think it's words. You need to sleep right. Like, we got kids in our group, right? Because we can check their stats in the Whoop app. Yeah. And it's like, you need to sleep. You need to sleep, and it's well, whatever. No, it's critical.
Oh my gosh, the decision you have to make that I'm going to get this regardless. Failure isn't an option. I understand I'm going to fail at some things. I might fail today, but making the decision, giving yourself, I think the best thing I did, not even knowing, was I gave myself no option. I gave myself no option, and it became easier to do as I got older. I understood, life isn't all fun and games. Like, you got to put food on the plate. You have to pay for your gas in your car. You got to pay for it. I was like, and I can do that through hockey? Okay, now this is gravy. Because I found out that in my head, and I had the same choice of, just no option. Like, and I felt so comfortable and confident in it that, and I understood later, a lot of angst from humans is just, they want to be in control of something. Giving up control and trying to shoot at an NHL career, you have, I can't even, every aspect of your life is almost not in your control. But for some reason, once you make that decision, and what the price tag is, you walk in, if you want it, I'm paying it. That was like, if I need to do 10 mountains today, I'm going to do it. If I wake up in a 3-3 and like my coach says, hey, this guy's pretty tough, like that was just the price tag. It wasn't even thought of. And I think that's definitely what got me through. And that doesn't come, and knowing now, I'm happy I had that, and my love for the game gave me that. That's something that a trainer can't buy. That's something that your parents can't give you. And that's where you see a lot of frustration in kids. It has to come from the kid. Yeah. It has to. Your kid has to decide. I mean, and even if they have the talent and they don't want it and they're pushed to a certain extent, I've seen a lot of relationships lost, because then if they don't want it themselves, they resent who's trying to get the talent out of them. And I've seen it even at the NHL level, because the guys haven't been tested. They've got their own talent alone, and then a coach knows that, and they go, we're going to use your talent because we have you under contract, and we're getting that talent out of you. And then that's how it just blows up. Yeah. But because it comes from the player doesn't want it himself. And there's deep psychology on that.
Just a side note on that. You could take it different directions, but like one, I remember when I was done hockey, done coaching, and my first real job I had was with Pitney Bowes, and I wanted to, so I was in sales marketing rep. So I learned something real quick that day that applies to coaching. If you don't want it, You could have the best manager in the world teaching you how to do things, and they do the, fluff you up and make you good. But if it's not a deep down desire, you have to go and pick up that phone and make the call and do the things that you need to do to make it work. If it's not inside you, you'll never do it. If it is, you will. But it's the same thing as like we're in this app that we have. So guys that are watching, the three of us started, it's called Operation Fluff Off. And it's not because any of us are real fat, maybe me a little bit, but we decided that we're all going to drop an X amount of weight this month. And we were talking this morning, we're all actually getting
pretty much 10
close.
pounds. Wasn't it 10
Yeah,
pounds?
10 pounds each, basically. And you don't need 10 pounds. You don't need 10 pounds. And I could,
something to try.
I could use 5. Yeah, so we're going to do it. But the thing is, we were talking this morning, and that's what I threw out is like the next 5 pounds are going to be tougher. We discussed. And it's like, I don't really have a desire to get to 10 pounds that badly that if it's like I'm going to keep continuing, but when push comes to shove, like the motivating factor is to get down to the weight that I want to is like I'm going to do my best, but it's not I want to get to the NHL best. It's going to be hopefully the chocolate cake I eat tonight doesn't really affect me. Maybe I got lucky. No, you know what I mean? Like it's different. So when you're going to the play in the NHL, it's like you said, mom and dad can't do it, man. Like, and I'm very aware of that with my son. And you know this. Like, that's why I'm so glad you, Zach, Eric, people are in his life to talk to him in a different voice because, like watching him play and I could pick on him every day. Say, do you really want it? Well, what about this? That's not a good dad. Mm-hmm. But he's finding his way, but you've got to figure it out because when you go through these things, when you fight Milan Lucic, that got to be a desire, not,
Oh yeah, you have to want it. I think if it's all those things, but coaches at the NHL level don't care because their job's on the line, so that they, like in the minors, there's a little bit more, or junior, there's a little bit more of fluff with, we will impose this on you so that you can learn to impose it on yourself. Yeah. Because if you do it willfully, that whole reward system of yourself and the pride you have in that and the courage you have moving forward to any other obstacle is exponentially higher than it being imposed on you and you revving your engine at 8,000 RPMs when if you did it voluntarily, it's smooth.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the acceleration and getting where you're going to and being the person and the man and like the integrity and the courage and the the belief in yourself you need to do. That all falls in place if you do it willfully and you have the, and it's easier to do it willfully. Like you said, if it comes from yourself, you have your own deep down burning desire to do it, to prove yourself. And if it's imposed on you, it's going to take a lot more out of you. Yeah. And it will work maybe today, maybe for a little bit, but it's going to squander and come back and be inconsistent. It has to be on your own. Yeah. And to me that was something to that point. That's something that head problems or having concussions, that mindset derails because you, doing it willfully, you're not the same person. You're not making decisions between your own head and acting the same way from who you truly are and why you're there. And that it's very challenging because you don't know what's happening. It's basically, you're caught in a wave and you don't know which way's up, and you just keep spinning. And that's unless you have someone around you and the help that's been through you before, to grab you by your shoulders and be like, let's readjust your sights. And because that's how important the desire coming from yourself to get there. It has to. And like you said, I see it with you, but if you want your kid to be the best hockey player possible, be the best parent possible. And then they will find the road of being hockey. Being a sounding board for life before hockey. Like I'm a hockey parent. I'm a hockey, like everything's through hockey.
We said earlier, you're probably not a hockey dad. Like because you probably don't understand the game because it's changed in the last 20 years. You don't have a clue what the game's about anymore.
Not even close.
Right?
Yeah.
Like going down that road, because you're so fit and you're so dialed into fitness, and that's not by accident. I mean, the talks that we've had about just how you've had to navigate your own way through fitness.
It's hilarious.
No, it's hilarious, but it's
I
like
laugh
that's
at myself every day.
But
It's
this
so
is
funny.
but this is that intrinsic value, right? You didn't wait for someone to say, okay, you need to do this, this, and this. You said, okay, you asked me to do this. That's fine, but I don't feel that. I feel like I should be doing this, and you solve problems in your own head and you research in your own head. So from your perspective, in fitness, okay, you're talking, let's say my kids or younger, let's say whatever, you've got your standard or fitness levels as an NHL player. You understand what that is and what it takes. How do you, when you drive that down to a kid, what can a kid do to get to that? So maybe start with, this is actually the type of fitness, the type of fitness level that you need to play in the NHL. I know everyone's a little bit different. Or what are the things that you need to work on to get to the NHL? And then if we reverse engineer that, how does a kid build up to that? Like what simple steps are going to do? And then, and you don't have to have a correct answer. I'm just asking your opinion on that.
I think you can dumb that down to right away. Do something every day.
Okay, perfect.
No, you're doing something every day.
Perfect.
I don't care where you are. I don't care if you have, you're doing something every day. If it's jumping jacks in a hotel room, if it is standing there doing high knees, you're doing something every day. Wrap your head around that, even if you don't want to. Okay, if you start doing that, and then you can, there's 4 things. Get strong. Get strong means, well, number 1, do a lot of it or a little of it with a lot of weight. Get strong. Like use the muscles on your body. And then the 3 past that are the most important with hockey. And once you start working out, you'll understand it. You have to do your sprints. So interval work. You're resting, you go fast. You're resting, you go fast. Then you play around with that with a little bit of duration. You do it on the ice, you do it running, you do it swimming, you do it biking, you do it air dying, you do it on a rower. You can do it with burpees. And all that you can do it without equipment, body weight. Your intervals, and then you need your power intervals, which are, it's not 10 or 15 seconds, which are intervals. You're doing long duration, so you feel the burn, but not long enough where it's conditioning. Or longer conditioning. So your short intervals, your power intervals, and then your base, your aerobic. Hit a low steady state. For everyone's a little bit different. I'm around 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, and then you push that envelope on duration. So it's 3 days a week at 30 minutes. It's 2 days a week. And then learning to pair that and not overlap each other. That's the basis of any workout program. Yep. I think that the emphasis on a hockey player is on conditioning and strength. And then with that, you'll learn your body. You'll learn your leverages on how long are your limbs. What do you need work on? Are you a type 2 that's fast? Are you a type 1 that's slow? Do you have a big gas tank, but you have no explosive? Are you all explosive, but you can't go for a long time? What type of player are you? How low do you skate? How much do you compensate? Do you have previous injuries? Do you pull a right groin all the time? Do you have a sore spot on your back on the left side? Like, then you figure out all your inefficiencies from that. But it starts with those 4 things: your strength and your 3 ways of conditioning. For me,
okay. So real clearly, you don't have to have a personal trainer.
No,
it might be a detriment when you're young. But the point is number 1, get up and be motivated to do something.
Do something.
Number 2 is a strength exercise, or push-ups. It's air squats. It's pull-ups. It's chin-ups. Those are strength exercises.
Oh, for sure.
So anybody can do it. And the important thing as a kid, and we're talking the younger kids, is there's not an exact rep or sets schedule that you have to do. It's just start doing it. Do it often. You're not even going to hurt yourself if you do a whole bunch of them. If you have weights, go ahead. Lift a little bit of weights. And then obviously the types of running and speed and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, if you're good with my son, 14 years old, getting up every day, getting on my exercise bike.
Oh,
good.
yeah.
It's something.
Yeah.
He decides to go for a run 3 times a week up hills. Those are sprints. Good.
Yeah.
Not hurting himself. Mixing it up with some strength training if you can. There's there's no exact method for it. It's just get out there, do it, and figure out your body.
Yeah, because then you just get started and you get momentum. So by the time if you're privileged enough and the stars align enough where you can do this for a living, all of a sudden, now you can dial it in, and you have the grace period of junior where you're a little bit more on your own. You spend more time on what you need in the summer. You find out your weaknesses, and you go home ruthlessly and relentlessly, and you go back over them.
So speaking of junior, do you feel like, because it's totally different when I played. We used to lift weights, bench press, did some squats, did it in August, right? Did a lot of running. But so do you think there's a big advantage, or maybe it's even a disadvantage, if someone goes in too dialed in as a 16-year-old in junior? Or is that okay to learn that as you go, as long as you've been doing some work? Like, and it's just a question. It's not. I'm not looking for the right answer.
I don't know. I think you just you
got to learn, right?
You learn on the go. You can't. And the other thing is, you wake up every day in hockey. A beautiful thing it teaches you is to have a short memory. There's a new reality every day, and that's why, you hear parents all the time, like if parents or scouts, they promised him this, they promised him that. Even to the audacity of, now the guys are coming out of college, and you know how that loophole of you're drafted in the 3rd round to the Minnesota Wild, and then at 18, and then you go to college, you've done your college career, and then you come out as a free agent because you didn't sign the contract. And now you have the pick of the litter. Well, I've heard a lot of those terms have guaranteed games.
Really?
Well, obviously, because the ball's in the player's court. What the hell are you looking for guaranteed games? What are you going to do? Show up to camp and be like, wave it over the GM's head and be like, haha, you have to play me 20 games.
Yeah, really?
No. If you're good enough and you put the work in, you're going to get your 20 games. What do you want to, 20 games, or 5 games, whatever, game guarantees. I can't imagine being on the GM side of that. They just got to laugh.
Yeah, no kidding.
You have a new reality every day you wake up. So you can't look for it to be easy like that. There's a good chance if you put your faith in someone else, and as a kid, they know what's best. No. Ask why. Ask questions. Be the most annoying, curious play you could ever be. Like that's. And you have to. A lot of people, what they don't understand about not just hockey but sports in general is like, you get to that point where the stress is high and you're about to lose your job. As an adult in the real world, people know the depths that they'll go to. Well, you have to package that up, those depths, and bring it out in your game. Mm-hmm. And if that's not coming from you, oh, wow, that's hard. Or you don't understand how mean and aggressive you will be if it's your livelihood, right?
That you care about.
That you
care about.
You care.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You got to care.
You got to care. And you got to want it. I guess it comes back to that. So what about mindset? How does a kid, at the NHL, there's a certain mindset that you have to have. Like, basically, like you said, it's a job that you have to earn every single day. And when you played for Torts, it's a job you have to learn. A job you earn every shift.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get a shift or a practice. Oh, yeah. Like, it's every day is a new day. So how do you get a mindset? Because mindsets are tough to teach sometimes. It's actually simple to teach, but it's tough to teach, if that makes any sense.
It's a very people think of mental toughness as hard and aggressive, and it's actually very subtle and finesse. It's very subtle. And as far as a mindset, I have a big bone to pick with all the. All I've ever heard as a kid was, you have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough. Well, no one ever dissected it and said, what is mental toughness? No one ever.
I know.
And that's why I wish I asked questions. I'm like, well, okay. Grit your teeth and nothing affects me. I don't know. Like,
yeah, what does that mean? Stay positive?
So I remember I texted Chooch the other night, and mental toughness is that moment. Every kid, when you fall in love with a game or something, whatever sport or whatever you do for a living, you're in your deep practice, and you don't even know, but everything, the volume on life is turned down and you're in it. Don't let anyone into that. Like, stay on that path. So enjoy it and stay in your process, but do not let outside negativity in and disrupt your process. I would say that is nuts and bolts of what it means to me. So not letting anyone in can be respecting yourself, respecting your time, being very critical and analytical and very honest with your actions to yourself. And then when the bullets are flying during a game, don't let your coach, don't let any other player, don't let anyone on your team, don't let your parents, don't let that in to your positive, deep practice focus on what you're doing on the task at hand. And if someone told me that when I was a kid, then I had an understanding, but don't let anyone in. So then what's marinating in your deep practice is what's that, cultivating that's your skill, your belief in yourself, your confidence, your self-esteem, you're feeding your desire to be a good hockey player. You're feeding your healthy relationship with your ego and what you can endure, what depths you'll go to keep this yours, how to be just, that is mental toughness to me. And then you pick your task and what you aim at and apply that. You can't be stopped as a human because you don't know it takes on a whole an entity of its own. It's its own thing. It's very it's beautiful to watch. Definitely players that, because you can't really articulate into words. You can just see. That's why coaches say, "Watch him."
Mm-hmm.
And happy-go-lucky kid. You'd be like, "Oh, good." It's not hanging out with the best players on the team. It's not that. It's watching them. Being like, what do they do? And to understand and all that, it's not perfect. It's not even close to perfect. And it's not the way someone else did it. It's your own way. But down to don't get the distractions. It's just that focus.
And distractions can come a lot of different ways. Could be from your coach.
Could be yourself.
Could be yourself.
It could be yourself, could be your coach, could be a girlfriend, could be the booze, could be your mindset, could be an injury, could be, there's many ththings, and how to simplify your life and let yourself go into that deep practice. That's,
yeah.
And and the more you do it, the more you're invested, and the more you're unlikely to give it up. If you want to be, people are afraid of themselves because they're afraid of how good they can be because they know the price tag it comes with how good they can be. So then they say, I'm going to do my best, but whatever. It doesn't, telling other people it doesn't matter to them to protect themselves of the failure.
Yeah.
And that's something I could wear on my sleeve that I'm very proud of, that it was, I'm going to do my best. I was like, I remember guys still probably know, I played Thursday nights out in Leamington when I was in junior and then in pro up until my first year in the NHL, and I moved away, but I was a tryhard. Absolutely. I was
beer league.
Yeah, it was a beer league tryhard. I couldn't turn it off because I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew that I needed to skate, and I knew I wasn't, and like, that was me. But that's what I was. It's just, try hard.
But that's awesome because that's like you just said, it's like you're dialed into what you needed to do, and going for a little leisurely skate just to get ice on a Thursday night wasn't in your bag. And if anyone had a problem with it, oh well, right? Yeah. I want to play in the NHL, and I'm going to get there, and this is what in my head, this is what it takes. That's funny. You told my son do things that aren't cool.
Oh yeah, the stuff that gets you where you want to go, no one wants to hear, and it's not cool. It's so far from cool, and it's so easy to go down that path because as young men, at some point, everyone has insecurities, and you're going to want to fit in, and you're not going to be on the top of the totem pole of every team you go on. You're gonna slot in somewhere, and then all of a sudden you're not at the top, and the team doesn't go as you do. You're looking to someone else to lead the charge and be like, oh, I need to fit in. What are you going to do to fit in? Are you do what's cool, or are you going to stick to your guns and stay what got you there? That deep practice, who you are, what you are, the trust of people that have their jobs in the line, the organization's ability to make money and win games. They saw something in you. So do what you did in that deep practice to be who you are as a player. And it's not necessary. Obviously, you have to improve and tweak and be that cockroach, be able to adapt. But at the same time, win the battle of yourself to do what got you there and tweak, not reinvent your game. Because, I mean, I remember at some points when you're really searching for answers, I did that with, for sure, you want a coach to like you because this is everything. So it's tough to explain. It's a feel thing, but it's definitely do the stuff that isn't cool. Going to bed on time isn't cool.
Not
Going to bed at 9 o'clock.
13.
Yeah. I remember sitting out with your parents and everyone's enjoying good food and you got to say, I need a salad and water. That's not cool. You know, saying no to a party, saying no to it, going on a date with a girl, that's not cool. You know, saying, but there's sacrifices. And if you can't make the sacrifices when it's really not that much to sacrifice, what are you going to do when it's your living? And if you really want it and you have to make the big sacrifices, the big ones, I'm talking like time away from your family, like the real ones, can you do that? So if you can't do it now, so do the stuff that isn't cool. Because I guarantee the people that you're trying to be cool in front of, whether it be a teammate, a coach, a parent, or whatever, places at school. Or,
those people do not understand you, by the way.
No,
no idea what your life is about.
Not at all. And do the stuff that isn't cool. You might feel left out for a night, but if you have a bigger purpose, a bigger goal, bigger and better things that you're shooting for. But hey, you might fail, but you're definitely going to, you have to be willing to do the things that aren't cool and not for a day.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah. Because you know what is pretty cool is sticking to those guns and doing the things that weren't cool and then making your dream come true and playing the NHL. And what else is cool is when you have people watching you and want your autograph and stuff like that, all the things that you dreamed of, that's pretty cool. It didn't come without a price. And what else is cool is when you're 30 years old like yourself and you're not sitting here going, okay, my career's over and now what am I going to do? You're cool as a cucumber because your life is set up for it. You're not in a financial mess. You've done things right. You've saved your money. You've done so many things really well. That's cool. And that was learned from an early age of sacrifice, right?
Yeah, and I had
sacrifice,
but parents that sacrificed to give me the opportunity at doing that.
Yeah,
that's something you're forever grateful for because I had the opportunity to do this. Like my dad didn't. Do you know how many guys don't?
Yeah,
and how many guys have boatloads more talent than I ever had. I played with guys that are better players than me. I have hundreds of them, but they never. But whether they didn't have the opportunity or knew what they were giving up, it's definitely not perfect, but it definitely learned a lot of good things along the way and lessons and things that, number one, I learned about myself. Pushing yourself to, it's so uncomfortable to find your limits as a person, but wow, does it give you, what a gift. What a gift. Like, people say, when I put it this way, you take 100 kids, okay, and you let them watch the World Junior game. What kid wouldn't want to be on that team?
Every single kid and the mom and the dad want to play and the dog. Everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
Everyone wants to wear the jersey.
But you take those same 100 kids and you give them the psychological warfare of finding your limits as a human, they might not want it anymore. And that's what happens in real time.
Yeah.
When kids move away from home, you can see it and coaches can see it and it's their job to pick, and that's the uncomfortable truth. But if you do the things that aren't cool, you'll be very well equipped to find your limits. Hence, be a better hockey player.
Yeah.
Be the best hockey player you can be to give yourself the best chance at maybe gracing a pair of skates for an NHL team.
Yeah.
And so it's finding those limits. And that's why, I'll play there, but I have to do that many uncool things to be there. I don't want it anymore because it's not on TSN on primetime TV and it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's 100%. Like, it'll get you. Things that like the distractions will get you, and everyone says they want to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. And basically, getting the NHL is going to heaven. And there's a price. There's a price to pay, right?
So that price sort of cut you up. That price isn't the same for each person,
right?
And that's everyone's on their own journey doing that. But that's where you got to compare, but not compare.
Yeah, I know for sure. Yeah, you got to give everything you've got. And like I can look back at when I played and being the, a really high end prospect, can't miss. I was a can't miss, and I missed because I was just bitter for a few years. Like, how did this happen to me? Like, why did this happen? Like, and excuses and more excuses than a pregnant nun. But when I got honest with myself and I decided to face the truth because I got to go move forward in life, I know where I failed. I mean, there was a lot of distractions in my home life, like a lot, but I let that get in the way, right? And I let my because I was mentally weak, I didn't know how to fix it, but like I'd go back and I'd change that if I could. There's a lot of things I would change, but like at least now I recognize it that I can. So that's why I think it makes me a decent teacher to my son and to players, is that I can actually understand what they were going through or what they might be going through, that I could help them fight through it. But,
hockey, you found your limits of what you can take, and you don't understand the own problems that you create for yourself. Yeah. And then, but through hockey, because you loved hockey, you learned it. Yeah. You found your limits. It's what the game can give you beyond what you see as a kid. Yeah. It's amazing. It's the things I'm thankful for that hockey gave me, that all the cool stuff I still appreciate, but that's the magazine cover stuff. Yeah. The stuff that I appreciate now, I never knew existed from the game that it taught me. Which is very, came from doing the stuff that wasn't cool, which I'm very appreciative for. Yeah.
Almost wrapping it up here. We'll go with this one first. What would you do differently if you could do anything? If you were to do it all over again, is there anything that sticks out that you would do differently that would maybe get you there faster, quicker, longer, or your journey and the way you did it is you're happy with it?
It's tough for me to say that because I wouldn't change a thing, genuinely, honestly, like from the bottom of my heart. But knowing what I know now, the two biggest things are I wouldn't overtrain, knowing what I know now, thinking that what I was doing best for me, I was actually diminishing my returns on all the work I was putting in. Yeah. Actually hurting myself, tearing my groin. Yeah. And then just, I wouldn't do anything different, but it's just from the place of, even through injuries, having the mental where I am now, being able to, very simply not let the negativity creep in hardship. Because, being very realistic, pragmatic, very, very hard on yourself, understanding that, but that I can't change a thing because that mindset, I wouldn't be where I am in the frame of mind I am right now. Yeah. So I wouldn't change it. Yeah. But I could see, I was very, very fortunate. I've messed up royally in certain situations, and I still have, a professional hockey career. There's a lot of guys that do that in junior and don't have, a still hockey career past that to look back on, learn from, as a reference point, learning, the life experience and the financial gain. So I can see how guys look back and be a lot more resentful and bitter towards the game. Yeah. For sure. So
typically though, this is my experience, that's you brought that on yourself.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. I look back and I go, you know what? You said you did everything you could, but did you really? And I look and I go, okay, there you didn't. You let that guy choose where you're going to be. That was, You could have fought through that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tools. So when I say a lot of these things, I just didn't know any better.
Yeah, I was doing my best with the tools I had equipped on my tool belt at that time.
Yeah.
I never chose
Yeah.
to do. I went down the wrong road with the best intentions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm more proud of.
Yeah.
Because I never willfully said, I know I'm going to suffer for this. I'm going to live through it.
Yeah.
I did it naively
Yeah.
and to my own ignorance that I didn't know I had.
Yeah.
So that
I think you follow the principle that I always tell people is like when you keep the dream big and you keep that purpose and that focus in front of you, the bigger that is, no matter what the problem, you can solve it when this is bigger. But as soon as you start saying, the coach doesn't like me, this guy might be better, I've got more problems, all of a sudden these problems stick out and that dream's not so big anymore. I blocked the camera again.
No, actually, that's a really good point.
You got to continue to say why, like the why. Why am I doing this? Why? And then if that's maybe it ends up not being important anymore. But I could tell you, the guys that I played junior with, like on under 17s and 18s, the names like Brendan Shanahan and Luke Richardson and Joe Sakic, those guys made $80 million. So when I was done my hockey career, when I look at, you know what, would have been worth busting my face up a little bit more for that kind of money? Yeah. I'm not saying that's who I was, but I'm just saying like that dream was just, the money was coming out then, and it's like, wow, what a lifestyle you have.
But I think if you do it to the best of your ability at the time, you find when you have time to stop and look back, I think you're definitely going to find the good in it. Yeah. If you don't and you did it just putting it on your plate, that's a lot harder to deal with. Yeah. And that's why, you know, a lot of coaches have the thank me later mentality.
Yeah.
Like wish it came with some more communication, but
yeah. Last thing, I just want the kids to understand. So we talk, because we're always talking on here about having a good mindset, having a lot of hard work, and there's a reason that we say that. It's just like what Torts in your NHL coaches say to you is like, you'll thank me later. They're just trying to give you this much, and you won't probably understand until when you're done.
You don't even get the "you'll thank me later." Just do it.
Yeah. But the mindset is that, right? And like when you look back, and you know, we've asked you questions about John Tortorella before, and you said, he just wants to squeeze every bit of juice out of you. He wants to get it all out of you, and he's not happy, and it'll make you a better player. Most people really don't understand what it is in the NHL, and we're going to finish on this thing. Is when kids look at the NHL, parents look at the NHL, what they see is the high percent guys, or the Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby. They see that life. Yeah, that's the game selling the top 2%. Right. Now, a lot of people, if you say who's Dalton Prout, they say who's that? 9 years in the NHL, that's who that is, right? 9 years as pro hockey. Pro hockey, yeah. That's who that is. Oh, really? Okay, but and they're like, oh yeah. So that's one thing. Number two is people assume that hockey is you play hockey in the winter because they can equate it to what they're used to as kids. You go to practice, you have a little bit of this, a game here and there, and it's like a part of their life. So the reason that we keep getting the message out that you have to put everything into this, if this is something that you actually want, is because at the NHL level, and the American League level, and starting in junior, it changes from being a game to a job. And could you just like I don't want you don't have to. I know we're getting cold in here in the whole bit. It doesn't have to be 25-minute long, but like, what's the reality in an NHL in the NHL world? Right
away from the top down, the coach isn't there for you. He's there to help the team win games. He's not going to cater to you. If you fit what he sees, like what you are as your own entity can help the team win, you're not going to be catered to. You're not going to be, your needs are not going to be met in your perfect world, right? You're never above the team. And I think that's something that, some coaches let the big dogs a little bit more leash as far as that. And I mean, if they go in a negative way, in a selfish way, that usually doesn't last long anyways. But I think that a lot of people, especially coming home and just questions I get, and I know it's out of from a good place, but people say, hey, what are you doing this summer? What are you doing today? I was like, it would take a lot of me not to get frustrated, and I would just kind of shrink my circle, because it was 2 workouts a day, for basically a lifetime, and trying to keep up, and trying to stay in that frame of mind you need to be in, but you can't always be on, and that's a balancing act in itself. So, and that's how serious do you want to take this? And that comes with, how bad do you want it, with sacrificing, and it's just with making it your decision that it's going to be your job and what you want to do. You're going to have choices that present themselves just by how serious you take it. And then with those choices, then the sacrifice comes. Then you understand what commitment is. And then you understand what discipline is. You can't have all these cliche, intangible things in front of you and then be like, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. No. You have to take action and learn it in real time while you're allowed to mess up. Draft year, junior, getting drafted, then you have a little grace period. But by the time you're 25, and not even now, I'd say early 20s now.
I'd say earlier too.
I'd say earlier. It used to be 25, and you used to be able to look at a 30, 35-year-old in the dressing room. No. You're going to be, in today's real world of the NHL, you have to learn that by 21, 22. You are mentally, your well-being is on your own. So that's when take action, when you have some buffer and people that are willing to stand under you and make those decisions. Then you learn the commitment, the discipline, the resilience, the mental toughness, the staying positive, all of those things in real time, so that you just don't have a theory and you were the best player in junior and you just had 100 points a season, and then you come into the NHL and now you're in the fight. You're in a fight and you're going to want out. Because it's going to be uncomfortable.
Because the fight every day, like when you're actually playing in the season, that's the other part I was wanting to ask you about. Is like a lot of people think you go to your morning skate and you come home and the day's yours, and then you go to your game day and it's a different. Plus the travel.
This is something small. If you put it in real life terms, when you go to work, your game day, it's some moments are casual, some moments are very serious, but your time is spoken for from. It would be about 7 o'clock when your alarm goes off until you're staring at the back of your eyelids, trying to go to sleep at night because you need to sleep for the next day. All of your time is accounted for. And then you're in the NHL, your CBA says you get 4 days off a month. And 2 of those are recommended and have to be in your home city. So who wants to sign up for a job that your work is all day? But it's not work because you're having fun.
When it's good.
Right?
When it's good.
And when it's going bad.
Yeah. But even on good days,
it's all day with 4 days off a month.
Yeah, and even on
you're never gonna get the. I'm not looking for sympathy here, because the way you're compensated, and you get to do what you love. Right away, you get the jealousy of about 90% of the public with zero sympathy, and they are your critics because they paid, and now there's internet, and you have to. And that's part of not letting the negativity in, but you have to learn those intangibles. It matters. Every day in junior matters. Because even though there's not a consequence yet, a real life consequence, but oh man, you're either paving a solid base to have the career you want, or you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
Fooling yourself. Or really fooling yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're in the NHL and you think you got a day off, but you realize that you've got a couple hours, but you still got to get that mobility stretch in minimum.
Yeah, a little mobility, and you have to eat right on that. You have to. It's
because people always say that, eh? I don't feel like the guys are playing for about 20% of their income now with the escrow and all that stuff. And heard someone say the other day, "Well, I don't feel bad for them." I'm like, man.
Okay, people don't feel bad for them. Okay, then you ask that person, "Hey, what's your dream?"
That's what I've said.
Okay, work at it for 20 years.
Yes,
and then. Knowing that now that you're in the window of making your money,
which you deserve every penny that you get.
Someone just shit happened and took 20% off the top.
Yeah.
Because owners and business, and you're just like,
yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's a kick in the teeth.
Yep.
All of a sudden, but I mean, those are small comments where you just understand the ignorance of the public. And that's why if you do something is very hard and you care about it, all of a sudden you have empathy for many people doing the same thing, and you have zero time for someone with an opinion that isn't doing something hard themselves.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah.
Less than the dirt on my shoe.
Yeah.
It is.
No, I get it.
Unless they're doing something hard, and because unless you're doing something hard that you care about, and then for a lot of people that don't impose that voluntarily on themselves throughout their life, you see their claws come out and the best part of their personalities come out when they have a child, because all of a sudden it matters.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I don't have kids, but I can almost guarantee it might not be the same as hockey if I'm lucky to have kids, but it'll be a close second.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it will be.
Hockey's going to be a close second because from what people say, but a little bit off path, but it goes back to doing something that means something to you.
Yeah. Well, I loved it.
Yeah,
we're good.
Great.
We're
Awesome.
good. We're going to shut her down for the day. Awesome. Thanks, dude.